Welcome to The Beat. I'm Antonia Hilton in for Ari Melber tonight. We start with breaking news on Donald Trump's name reportedly appearing in the Epstein files. Today, explosive new reporting rocking the political world. According to the Wall Street Journal, the Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is in the Epstein files. It comes as Trump, who previously helped stoke Epstein conspiracy theories, suddenly tries to tamp down questions about that guy. The Journal reports, quote, when Justice Department officials reviewed what Attorney General Pam Bondi called a truckload of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein earlier this year, they discovered that Donald Trump's name appeared multiple times, according to senior administration officials. In May, Bondi and her deputy informed the president at a meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files, the officials said. Many other high-profile figures were also named, Trump was told. Being mentioned in the files, in the records, isn't a sign of wrongdoing. It's new context for Bondi's claims about potentially revealing documents, including the ever-elusive client list. Here's what she said in February and March, weeks before reportedly informing Trump his name was in the files.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now. A lot of flight logs, a lot of names, a lot of information, but it's pretty sick what that man did. We will get everything. We will have it in our possession. America get the full Epstein files.
That's what Bondi was saying before the DOJ released a memo in July that poured cold water all over talk of a client list and theories about Epstein's death. That memo caused an uproar and led to Trump getting hammered with questions, including a direct question about what Bondi told him.
So the Attorney General briefed you on the DOJ and FBI's review, the findings of that review. The Attorney General briefed you on that.
What? On the
On the DOJ and FBI
on what?
review.
On what subject?
Epstein, of the review of the files. Attorney General Pam Bondi.
A very quick briefing.
Did she tell you, what did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name appeared in the
No,
file?
she's given us just a very quick briefing.
The Journal reports the DOJ told Trump in May, quote, it didn't plan to release any more documents related to Epstein because other material contained child pornography and victims' personal information. Trump reportedly didn't object. Now the White House is calling the Journal's report, quote, another fake news story. The Journal also reporting, quote, FBI Director Kash Patel has privately told other government officials that Trump's name appeared in the files, according to people close to the administration. It builds on the Journal's recent reporting about that strange and, quote, bawdy birthday message Trump allegedly wrote to Epstein. Trump is, of course, suing over that reporting. It bears repeating. The big news tonight: the President of the United States' name reportedly appearing multiple times in documents related to convicted child predator Jeffrey Epstein. So ahead this hour, I'll talk live with Reverend Al Sharpton and Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen. But we are going to start with Emily Bazelon, legal writer with the New York Times Magazine, and Catherine Christian, NBC News and MSNBC legal analyst and former assistant district attorney with the Manhattan DA's office. Thank you both for being here with me this evening. So, we understand that his name being in these files does not necessarily mean that a crime has been committed here. And I think for some, this may not even be surprising because we've known that he's in flight logs. We know that Epstein reportedly had multiple phone numbers for Donald Trump and for other members of the family. But what's sort of striking to me is that he was just asked a week ago by a reporter, did Bondi tell you this? What did you know? And it appears he may have lied. Catherine, how significant is all of this to you?
He lied or he forgot. It's significant. Well, first, again, just because your name appears in a file, that does not mean you've committed a criminal activity. But we would need to know the context. I'm sure there were search warrants executed during this investigation. So did they get the flight logs, guest lists? Did his name appear on a guest list? Is his name on other birthday cards? The Wall Street Journal said he was given a birthday. He left the birthday message for Mr. Epstein. So it'd be interesting to see how his name appears multiple times. On what documents do they appear? And many of those documents may not have been grand jury secret documents that were been obtained to subpoena. It could have been a witness interview, which certainly is not going to be confidential unless there were like a victim's name there. So it'd be interesting to know how President Trump's name is in these files.
Emily, what questions has all this raised for you and the timeline here? I mean, this is sort of a problem of their own creation. They're the ones that released a memo saying nothing to see here, folks, only weeks ago. So, how shocked are you by this latest development, this new reporting from the Wall Street Journal?
Well, I agree with Catherine. It's not that surprising in the sense that we know that Epstein and Trump were friends. They spent time together, including, it seems, in the period of time that the indictment covers. Another question I have is whether the fact that Trump's name is in these documents, and we don't know how or the context, relates to the Justice Department's decision not to release more of these files. Was that something that was on Pam Bondi's mind? Was she trying to protect the president in making that decision? And that seems like an especially important question to ask because Trump has, in so many ways, blasted on by the usual protections of the independence of the Justice Department from the president, right? He doesn't believe in that kind of independence. He is making it clear he's the one calling the shots. And so you want to know how all of that adds up.
Did he direct her not to disclose any further information?
We know that Senator Dick Durbin already authored a letter alleging that basically a whistleblower had informed his office that she had directed people to spend time around the clock looking specifically for Trump's name in the files that she had access to. And then, just in this one section of the Wall Street Journal's reporting, the meeting set the stage for the high-profile review to come to an end. So in a way, at least the timeline, it raises all those suspicions you just spelled out there, Emily. I'm curious for you, Catherine. We now know, too, that Ghislaine Maxwell's been subpoenaed officially. There's sort of efforts to hear more from her now on several fronts. What do you think we could realistically learn from her? She did not seek a plea deal first time around. Would she have new information now?
We would expect her to say nothing unless she were granted full immunity by Congress, which
A
apparently
lot of people think that's what she's going for.
they're not going to do. And if I'm a lawyer of a defendant in her situation, I'd say, unless you're getting immunity, you keep your mouth shut. Because remember, she has an appeal pending. So she's not going to do anything to harm that appeal. When Epstein was alive, the Southern District could have used her as a cooperator, could have perhaps had her flip against him and then promised her a lower sentence. Once he died, there was nothing that she could give them. So she was an equal co-defendant and she was tried. But I don't see her speaking unless she got full immunity. And why would you give full immunity to someone who's been convicted of such horrible crimes, trafficking, child sex abuse, for sex abuse purposes? Why would you pardon someone who is convicted of such horrible crimes?
Emily, how do you think Trump's base is going to process this? They kind of rejected the Wall Street Journal's report around this birthday letter. We saw almost within like 2-3 minutes, people starting to tweet and respond saying, this doesn't sound like Trump. I don't think he ever draws pictures, that kind of thing. What do you know of how they are going to process this latest information? And do you think that this could really create an actual break, a crack in his loyal following? You're already kind of laughing right now.
No, I mean, I'm not laughing. The approval ratings among Republicans of Trump's handling of the Epstein files have already dropped. So I think we are already seeing some impact from this. I wonder if one difference between this news piece of information and the drawing is that the drawing nobody has seen. The Wall Street Journal described it, but it isn't in our heads as an image that is in public view. Maybe that made it easier to dismiss. This reporting, which other news organizations are already matching, is coming from inside the Trump administration, saying that he didn't disclose that he'd been told these facts. And it raises these questions about that you were just asking, who directed this, who controlled it. Those questions about direction and control are so much a part of the kind of larger conspiracy theorizing around the Epstein case. It all kind of feeds on itself, one might think. And there is terrible wrongdoing at the heart of this criminal matter.
Catherine, could some of what it appears this administration knew and did not publicly share impact Trump's lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for that first report?
Well, it will certainly help the Wall Street Journal, and in their defense, that the fact that the Wall Street Journal has once again issued an article that would surely upset the president shows that they are going to defend that lawsuit to the hilt. Rupert Murdoch is not going to fold like other media companies or certain law firms have folded. So it's like a drumbeat. Again, just because your name is in a file, that doesn't mean you did anything criminal. But it's interesting that suddenly, and they only asked the DOJ for the grand jury transcripts. Donald Trump's name is not going to be in that grand jury transcript. But we now know, if it's true, that his name is sprinkled throughout the files.
Speaking of grand jury transcripts, we also heard from a judge in Florida today that their hands are tied from unsealing Epstein-related information from grand juries convened in 2005 and 2007. Do you think the administration tried to set judges up to be kind of the fall guy here?
Yes, you know,
Okay.
I will admit that often as a lawyer, you like, well, let the courts decide. Oh, sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. The judge said no. So the law is the law, and that's what this judge said. The federal rules of criminal procedure are clear that grand jury testimony transcripts are secret, and there is no public interest exception, and the judge made that clear here.
Well, Emily Bazelon, Catherine Christian, thank you both for being here at the table tonight. We are staying on this breaking news story. I'll be talking to Reverend Al Sharpton and former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen as MAGA world is reeling from this new bombshell on a story they've been hyping for years.
The same thing with Epstein's list. It's like, what the hell are these Republicans doing?
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
A siege mentality now overtaking the Trump White House as the Epstein questions hit a fever pitch.
President Trump called the Epstein files controversy a witch hunt. Yeah. A witch hunt, as in it's a hunt for which files contain Trump.
Reverend Sharpton and then Michael Cohen. We're going to be back in just 90 seconds.
You saw that you had to pull the rule because of fear of Epstein votes.
No, we don't have any fear. No, hold on. No, Reese, no. There's no fear here. No, there's no fear. There's no fear.
Speaker Johnson under pressure as new revelations drop about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. The Wall Street Journal reporting today, the Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein files. The White House is denying the story. Meantime, photos newly obtained by CNN reveal something not widely known until now, that Epstein was actually at Trump's wedding to Marla Maples at the Plaza Hotel in 1993. The House Oversight Committee today also subpoenaed Ghislaine Maxwell. All this coming out amid new heat from the right. The founder of the extremist militia group, Oath Keepers, Stuart Rhodes, is speaking out. He was convicted of seditious conspiracy over January 6th, and Trump pardoned him. And yet, Rhodes is warning, quote, I believe 90% of Trump's base understands that Epstein was up to something. And we know that's the tip of the iceberg. It's really disheartening to see President Trump just declare that to be a hoax. I don't think it is. And I think it's going to cause him trouble in his own base. It already is. That's from the far right. Pressure is also coming from D.C. Republicans. Here's GOP Senator Thom Tillis today.
Release the damn files. Look, it makes no sense to me. Either it's a nothing burger or it's something really disturbing, and that's actually even a more compelling reason to release it.
Meanwhile, House Democrats are planning to force more votes and get the GOP on the record.
Look, Donald Trump is doing backflips and everything he can to change the topic.
Republicans are running away, all to avoid the release of the Epstein client list, all to cover up for pedophiles.
One must ponder the question, what are they hiding from the American people?
Speaker Johnson has assured that August has become the Epstein recess.
Trump seems to be getting so desperate now that he's literally coaching GOP lawmakers on how to respond to questions about Epstein. This is what he said to a group last night.
And remember, don't let them forget, it's so important, Obama cheated on the election. When they give you all the nonsense, Obama cheated. And you should mention that every time they give you a question that's not appropriate. Just say, oh, by the way, Obama cheated on the election.
And joining me now is Reverend Al Sharpton, founder of the National Action Network and host of Politics Nation here on MSNBC. Rev, I want your reaction first to this bombshell new reporting from the Wall Street Journal.
Well, it is a bombshell because here we are getting information that is directly the opposite of what we were told at first, that he really knew nothing and he was not involved. But it would explain what we've seen all week. I mean, every day he's tried to change the story. I'm going to fire the Fed chief. I'm going to release Martin Luther King Jr.'s files. I'm going to ask for the arrest of Barack Obama. He's behaving like a man that's panicking. Now, I have no idea what he did or didn't do, and I'm not accusing him of that. But I am saying that he is acting like a man that has a lot more to hide than what we've known.
Do you think this administration, their actions, they're making this problem worse for themselves?
Absolutely, because I think if they had come out and just said candidly, look, I knew the guy, I went to some of his events, put all the files out, it would have been nothing if there is nothing there. But the fact that they've changed the story 2 or 3 times, including having the Attorney General change it, and the fact that they look like they're trying to bury the story. I mean, he's done everything but jump off the Truman balcony and bounce back. I mean, they've done everything to try and change the story. Makes everybody say, wait a minute, there must be something there we don't know. Whatever that is, again, I'm not accusing him, but I'm very, very curious now with all the drama we've seen this week.
And now I guess sort of right on cue, right on time, we have House lawmakers getting out of Dodge, fleeing Washington, D.C. for their early summer vacation. What does that tell you?
I mean, at a time when we are seeing the country facing so much and on a global level and local, you're dealing with starvation in Gaza, you're dealing with Ukraine and even people there now mad at Zelensky. And you have people that and their home bases, their home districts, that are furious with them about the big, ugly bill that they call Beautiful Bill. The last thing you would think they'd want to do is go home and have to explain Medicaid cuts and cuts to SNAP. They say, oh, no, you're going home. So that
Do you think they'd rather talk about cuts to people's health care right now than deal with this Epstein situation?
Unless they went to Epstein's parties, I think they would rather stay in Washington and deal with these situations than to go home and deal with the town halls and all. The only reason that I believe that they are vacationing early is because Donald Trump has told Johnson this is what you have to do, which is unprecedented. You're going to extend the vacation of Congress at a time like this.
So you see them as abdicating an important responsibility right now?
I see them as abdicating a very important responsibility, and I see a president that seems as though he is very rattled. We will find out why soon. We say in church, by and by when the morning comes.
So how do you think Democrats should be engaging with this at this point? At first, some of them were hesitant. Now we see more of them coming forward, comfortable talking about the Epstein case, pushing for transparency here. But the same way this whole thing and the sort of conspiracy elements of it seems to be eating up the base that started it on the right. Are there risks here for Democrats who want to engage on this?
I think that they have to engage very strategically. They have to point out the obvious and then step back and let them deal with it. You know, I had a mentor once told me, if you see a man going over a cliff, don't get close, you'll turn a suicide into a homicide. They've got to make them appear that they're doing this to themselves, but we're standing up for what's right. So they shouldn't overdo it. They have to be present. They have to state strongly what is the legality of the matter and the morality of the matter. Because we're talking about children with Epstein. I'm not saying Trump's involved there. We're talking about children with Epstein. But at the same time, let them stumble all over themselves what they're doing. You got the founder of the Oath Keepers coming out attacking now. Don't get in the way of that.
True. I mean, the other thing I wonder here is if there's an opportunity for Democrats to broaden the Epstein story and to make it about white-collar crime, the wealth inequality in the United States at a time when so many people, we just saw here in New York, they want to talk about affordability. They want to talk about how they're going to survive and try to thrive in this country right now. If Democrats can kind of turn Epstein into an avatar, really, for the way in which the elite, the wealthy, they get away with everything, from sort of robbing people, slashing your health care, but also to these kinds of heinous, heinous crimes.
No, I think you're absolutely right. If you look at the primary in New York, the primary in Minneapolis, people are dealing with affordability, people are dealing with struggling. If you can say that the Epsteins of the world and his circle, whether they all engage in pedophilia or not, we do not know. But they could write the rules the way they want. They could avoid being held accountable. And we represent something different. We know your life. How do they know theirs? And you don't have a guy to fix documents for you or somebody to bury things for you or to act like you weren't somewhere. If they begin to raise the broader issues of the difference between the haves and the have-nots, I think that it benefits them tremendously in the midterm election.
And I got to ask you, too, before we go to break, about what's happening to former President Obama right now. You know, we saw Trump release that AI video of him getting arrested to the tune of the YMCA song. And now we have DNI Tulsi Gabbard sort of pushing these baseless claims about the former president, claiming that the Russia probe was designed by him to undermine Trump's incoming presidency at the time. How seriously do you take this? I mean, a lot of people are talking about it as a distraction right now. But do you think there's a real hunger, a real plan here to try to go after Obama?
I think it's a real problem for the country to have a sitting president to say that you are to arrest or prosecute a president. His predecessor has never happened in American history. And to get people all geared up, all you need is some nut to feel I should make a citizen's arrest. This can go anywhere. So I don't think we ought to deal with it as a distraction, but we need to deal with the gravity of what they're doing. You're talking about the president of the United States, no matter how we feel about him, attacking a former president, saying he stood in this Oval Office and broke the law and he should be brought to justice.
Yeah, they're using words like treasonous conspiracy.
And what is, when I was going to school, treason, what are you supposed to face with treason? So I think it is very dangerous for the country, very dangerous for President Obama and his family. And I think it's something that, when Donald Trump was shot, all of us rushed out and said, this is wrong, we condemn it. You can't put people in a position where you know you can incite somebody who's not all that well to think they're doing the country a favor if they're dealing with treason. And that's my fear, that we now are way across the line of what we should do for Trump or Obama. We shouldn't do that to any president.
Reverend Sharpton, always good to see you. Thank you for being here with me tonight. And be sure to catch more Rev on Politics Nation, weekends at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on MSNBC. Later in the show, amid ICE raids, disturbing new revelations tie far-right extremist ideologies to the Trump administration's messaging campaign. But first, former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen is here live on Epstein revelations and the pressure facing Trump. That's next.
President Trump called the Epstein files controversy a witch hunt. Yeah. A witch hunt, as in it's a hunt for which files contain Trump's.
We are tracking that bombshell Wall Street Journal reporting that the Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein files. The White House denies the reporting. Before that story broke, Politico reported Trump was furious and frustrated by the all-consuming Epstein coverage. Allies reportedly describing the mood inside the administration as, quote, haunted. One person saying, quote, it's the first time I've seen them sort of paralyzed. Trump losing the ability to dominate the narrative, as Politico puts it. A White House ally saying, quote, they're the ones that opened the can of worms on the Epstein conversation. No one made them do this, which makes it sting even worse. Today, newly surfaced 2023 comments from FBI Director Kash Patel underscore how Trump allies helped fuel all of this.
The same thing with Epstein's list. It's like, what the hell are these Republicans doing?
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
Joining me now is Michael Cohen, host of the Substack channel at The Real Michael Cohen and the Mea Culpa podcast. He was, of course, Trump's former lawyer. He knows the guy well, but he's now a leading critic. He entered Trump's orbit after Trump's fallout with Epstein, so Cohen did not personally witness their interactions. But he writes this about the Epstein files in his Substack, quote, "You can't redact a reckoning. If Trump is named, if any public official is named, the files must show it." Michael Cohen, thanks for being back on with me. Good to see you. So I guess you just said it there. The files must show it. Now we have this new reporting from the Wall Street Journal. Does this change the calculus for you as
No.
this story unfolds?
No, it doesn't. Because, like I said on your show during the weekend, nice to have you here instead of Ari. Like I said on your show on the weekend, conspiracy theorists will never be satisfied. Meaning, no matter what is said, if you are a Trump supporter, it's all nonsense. If you are a Trump detractor, oh, Trump is guilty, he's guilty. I don't ascribe to either of those. Why? Because there's a file sitting on Pam Bondi's desk, the one that Kash Patel was just talking about, the one that we've all been talking about. There is a file of documents that have been put together by law enforcement agents for a multiple year investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. I don't want to start guessing. I don't want hypothesis. I don't want people's opinion. I want to see the facts. I want to see the documents. What if hypothetically he's named, but he's named in something that's innocuous, not criminal, not part of what Jeffrey Epstein is known for? Now, on the controversy side, what if hypothetically he's not? What if he's named in a negative manner? I don't want to guess which one, because again, if you like him, you go one way. If you don't, you go the other way. I just want to see the documents. They should release the file. And if the president wants to know what they need to do in order to put an end to this endless conversation about Jeffrey Epstein, release the file.
Well, they must know that. And there's a reason why they haven't.
You see, you're doing exactly what I just said, right? You're coming up with an innuendo as to, or an opinion as to, well,
I don't have an opinion.
There
are very valid reasons, because there are victims and survivors who are at the center of this story. We know that there is imagery of child pornography involved. So there's certainly no scenario in which 100% transparency is like humanely possible.
100%. And these victims should not be exposed to more harm and pain than they've already gone through. But you can redact it.
But here's the thing, though. You know, you just spelled out what option they have to make people feel that there's more transparency here. But what we're learning in this reporting, right, is that in May, Bondi and her deputy informed the president at this meeting that his name was in the files. But then last week, when asked by a reporter, has Bondi by any chance told you your name's in the files? He lied.
Yeah, listen, is that the first time? Is that the first time that he ever did?
But there's a scenario, right, where they could have said, well, you know, like, yes, they were friends at one point, so his name's in there, but it's not anything, you know, untoward.
And if I was there by his side, that's the answer I would have told him to say.
So he's just getting bad advice because you're not there now?
Probably, but horrible advice, because again, all it's doing is fueling the conversation. They are their own worst enemies right now. They are the ones that are fueling this conversation. They like to turn around and say, oh, it's the Democrats, as you showed in your teaser. This has been something for years now that Republicans have been on the attack, that this is all about some elite Democratic cabal of child sex traffickers and pedophiles. No, that's not what it is. And now they have to deal with the consequences of their actions.
Okay, so take us inside the head of Donald Trump. What's he thinking right now?
Well, I'm sure he's angry because he wants this to go away. There are more important things that he wants to talk about. More important to him, may not be important to us, but there are
You mean like the MLK files and baseless allegations
or the
against
big
Obama.
beautiful bill, or the tariff win that he just claims that we got over, you know, Japan and so on. There are things he wants to talk about.
But I will tell you what MAGA Mike Johnson just delivered for the president by now releasing the House on an early summer vacation. By the way, at our expense, the taxpayers.
Right.
What he did is he gave him a lifeline that this isn't going to go on, and they're not going to talk about this all the way till September 2nd when they return. And so it's not now in front of him as it would be tomorrow or Friday or Saturday, because eventually there's nothing else to talk about. House can't do anything. What I would have done, I was speaking with Joe Walsh on my Substack. We do a live on Wednesdays. You know what they could have done? They could have actually stayed in the House. All you need is one member, and they can't close it. And then stay for 4 hours. Let another member come in 4 hours, and then 4 hours. And find a Republican. Find one Republican, 2 Republicans, 4, 10, because we know which Republicans, especially the MAGA ones, don't want to see this go away. They want to see the file. So what they could have done, get them and then bring it to a vote themselves. Instead, they just lose these opportunities again and again. And again, the Democratic leadership really needs to step it up.
Well, they're going to have opportunities because, I mean, you know, yes, their colleagues will come back in September, but we now know that Maxwell's going to be subpoenaed or deposed in August. There are all these other fronts.
And what do you think she's going to do? You think that she's going to be able to speak? I say she won't be able to.
If I were her, I would only speak if I got something out of it. So.
Well, I agree, but I don't believe that she's going to be able to speak. She has an appeal going on right now. And so her lawyers, and I know that they're very good, should probably turn around and say to her, just take the fifth on everything. You have an active case going on. In fact, it's actually improper that they're subpoenaing her because they're putting her in a position to harm herself.
Well, we will find out very soon. Michael Cohen, thank you as always. Still ahead, how the Trump administration is pushing anti-immigrant propaganda that echoes MAGA conspiracies. But first, a fact check on Trump's attempts to distract from the Epstein mess by attacking Barack Obama.
Whenever Trump is backed into a corner, he needs to change the subject and throw red meat to the carnivorous base. And their favorite cut is filet of Obama.
That was Stephen Colbert calling out Donald Trump on his tried and true deflection tactics, this time going after former President Obama. Trump refusing to answer questions on the Epstein scandal, instead lashing out. He continues to push this baseless claim that Obama committed treason by actively working to undermine Trump's election win. Obama, who almost never responds to this kind of thing, is hitting back, rebuking Trump's claim as, quote, outrageous, bizarre, and, quote, a weak attempt at distraction. I want to be really clear here. There is no evidence to support Trump's false allegations trying to paint former President Obama as seeking to undermine his presidency. What's likely happening here is Trump conveniently bringing back up the Russia probe as he feels heat from his own base over the Epstein situation. So Trump wants us all to dismiss that as a, quote, hoax. Meanwhile, there is evidence Russia did try to influence the 2016 election. At one point, Trump's own highest-ranking officials readily admitted all of that.
Russia neither had the intent nor capability to essentially hack the outcome of the U.S. election. Yes, we need to stop these other foreign countries, and Russia's not the only one. There are others from trying to influence the American people in our elections.
Their assessment of 2016 is accurate. It's 100% accurate. The Russians interfered in our elections.
My views are that Russia meddled in or interfered with active measures in 2016.
Trump himself even being haunted by his past comments on the matter.
They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. The Democrats spent $12 million to Christopher Steele to write up a report that was a total fake report. I accept our intelligence community's conclusion that Russia's meddling in the 2016 election took place.
Trump's MAGA loyalists pushing his retribution campaign, even if it means catching themselves in lies. Up next. Amid backlash to Trump's extreme deportation agenda, he's upping funding for ICE by billions. Immigration and customs enforcement has become the tip of the spear for Donald Trump's agenda. The new Trump budget allocating over $37 billion to ICE per year, supercharging the agency with more funding than most of the world's militaries. And now experts are increasingly worried by the administration's overt incorporation of Christianity in everything from policy to imagery and online rhetoric. They argue much of Trump's agenda is animated by a combination of Christian nationalism and the so-called replacement theory, which much of MAGA has pushed for years.
In political terms, this policy is called the Great Replacement.
We will replace you.
This is the plan of our friends on this side to turn all the illegals into voters.
Open borders, unlimited refugee resettlement, unlimited free benefits for foreign criminal trespassers.
The strategy is to change the demographics of the country. You disempower the people who live here. You take their votes away.
They're coming to a neighborhood near you.
In recent years, this kind of rhetoric has moved from the sidelines and the fringes into government propaganda. The Department of Homeland Security posting this image of Uncle Sam asking people to report all foreign invaders. That image reportedly created by a white nationalist with neo-Nazi ties. DHS also sharing this painting of a white frontier family, captioned, "Remember your homeland's heritage." The artist says his image was used without permission. And DHS posting this clip of Border Patrol officials in military gear to a song including Bible verses. That band also denounced this, telling DHS, quote, "It's obvious that you don't respect copyright law and artists' rights any more than you respect habeas corpus and due process rights, not to mention the separation of church and state." Joining me now is Brad Onishi, a professor of religious studies and philosophy at the University of San Francisco and the author of Preparing for War, The Extremist History of White Christian Nationalism and What Comes Next. Brad, I guess that is my question, what comes next and what you make of DHS incorporating this kind of imagery and these thematics in official government propaganda.
Yeah, what we're seeing is an escalation of Christian nationalist rhetoric. And if we just take that last ad that you highlighted, it's about a minute long. It includes an overlay of a voice saying, here's a Bible verse I've thought about many times, and that Bible verse is, "Here I am, Lord, send me." It's from Isaiah chapter 6. And of course, the imagery there is of soldiers, of DHS agents, of people who are engaging in what seems to be DHS operations, folks getting ready for conflict, for warfare, for battle. And to me, there's something there that we really have to notice. That's not just an ad that says, hey, if you join up with DHS, if you become an ICE agent, that's a good career path for you. Maybe this is a new start. That's not an ad that says, join up in a patriotic endeavor, something that you might think of as a great American program that started by Donald Trump. This is an ad that says, if you join up with us, DHS and ICE, you are answering a call from God. You're entering a holy war. You are answering the call to play a part in a story that is transcendent. And that's Christian nationalism in a nutshell. It commingles nationalistic rhetoric and ideas, and it gives them authority by bringing in religious imagery, scripture, symbolism, and so on. And to me, that ad is a dangerous escalation. We've seen this kind of rhetoric for a long time, especially since Trump entered public life. To see it from the official DHS account online is truly frightening.
The difference in tone and the use of the online world has been really stark in the Trump 2.0 era. That sort of Uncle Sam-like imagery about reporting former invaders. On X, a user who identifies as Christian nationalist adjacent claimed responsibility for being the first to share that, sort of saying that they inspired the federal government to find that image and then share it themselves from an official government account. What does it say to you that we're at a point where imagery generated from what people would have at one point called a sort of fringe and dangerous space is now finding its way very quickly to these official government accounts and messaging to the country?
Well, I think we know that the overturn window has shifted dramatically over the last 10 years. I think we know that what was once fringe has become mainstream in many ways. If we think about where Kash Patel and Dan Bongino started and now where they sit at the FBI, we have a perfect case in point. But I want to zero in on the religious elements of these ads and of this propaganda. One of the things that I do as a scholar of religion is I always ask myself, in cases like this, what is a piece of symbolism or media telling me would make someone a good adherent to that religious tradition? So in this case, what would make them a good Christian? And the takeaway here is that Christian virtue, American Christian virtue, is about nationalism, and it's about nationalism that uses force and violence. It's about nationalism that expels any person who's deemed other in the name of God. So we have a Christian virtue based not on compassion or love, based not on community or flourishing, but based on violence, on conflict, based on the idea that if you sign up with us, you can take part in vengeance and revenge and retribution. And that is exactly what God wants. Again, I think that's a pretty frightening takeaway from what we're seeing from DHS over the last couple of weeks.
Brad Onishi, thank you so much for joining the show tonight and sharing your insights. I'm sure we'll need to lean on them again soon. We will be right back. So that does it for me tonight. I'm Antonia Hilton, and you can always catch me on the Weekend Primetime, along with Eamon, Catherine, and Elise. That's weekends from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern.